turnout, Miss Kim. Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, I told Kim earlier that in the middle of the night, I was having party host anxiety. Like, what if nobody comes? And she said, it doesn't matter who comes because we're going to record it and people can watch it whenever they want. Okay, it's 2 past noon, and we have almost 20 people on the phone. So let's go ahead and get started because it is lunch and people want to get back to their day job. I am Kim Egan. I'm one of the presidents of the Maryland Horse Council. And today we have with us, we have 2 people from the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, possibly more. I can't see the whole list of folks. Kim Weir and Chelsea Truesdale, and they are going to talk to us briefly about the Second Chances program and why we're having this webinar. And then we have David Green, who's the work release warden. I'm sure that's my shorthand for his title. And some people from the Central Maryland Correctional Facility and the work release coordinator, Marcel Mitchell, with us to talk about what we're thinking. And we want to do a little bit of talking, but then we know people have a lot of questions of how this program might work and who these people are, et cetera. So then we're gonna turn to that. And I am recording it, so if people want to refer back to it, we will have it posted on our website and our Facebook page, and I might even circulate the link in an email. So, so Kim Weir and I met at the Maryland Million in October 2021, which is the place where all people who want to meet people meet people. And we immediately bonded over the fact that we have the same first name. And she invited me to come up to the Second Chances Farm in Sykesville, which many of you may know is the property that the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation runs its program for bringing retired and unrideable thoroughbreds together with inmates at the Central Maryland Correctional Facility, and they work together to help the inmates learn some skills to help them when they get out. And I was sitting there for the graduation of the, I guess, well, whatever recent class, and we were listening to the participants in the program talk about their journey with the horses, and it was so moving. I actually cried. And I was sitting there next to Ross Petticord, who many of you know, who's the MHIB executive director, and Kim Weir was sitting next to us as well. And I looked at her and him, and I said, well, what happens next with these folks? And so that started the germ of this idea. So I'm going to turn it over now to Kim Weir, and she's going to do her thing, and then she's going to turn it over to David Green. And I will be managing the hand-raising stuff. So I'm going to put myself on mute while I do that. And once we get a little further in, we'll start taking questions. Okay, it's all to you.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. It is such a pleasure to be here with you and with this extraordinary gathering of wonderful faces, some of whom I've talked to as recently as this morning. And just to see this much interest in this topic, I want to say my huge thanks to Kim Egan and the Maryland Horse Council for convening this conversation, and perhaps even greater thanks to Warden Green and your team at Central Maryland Correctional Facility for being open to this conversation. It is just terribly exciting. So I have the honor of speaking for the horses of the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. We have a herd of 425 retired equine athletes in our care. They live all across the country, 15 farms in 8 states, and 8 of those farms are what we call TRF Second Chances farms, which means that they are run in collaboration and partnership with correctional facilities, such as Central Maryland Correctional Facility. Very first one started here in New York. I sit in Saratoga Springs, New York, where we are expecting quite the Arctic blast. So we're living up to our upstate New York pride this weekend. But our first farm was at the Wallkill Correctional Facility in Wallkill, New York. And that horse stepped off the van 40 years ago next year. And our organization celebrates its 40th anniversary this year. And it's just a great testament to the fact that there is always new, there's always potential for new, there's always potential for growth, there's always potential for evolution. This conversation is such an example of that. So just to say about us, and then the relevant content I have for this morning or this afternoon, is that we have been, as a nonprofit charity devoted to the welfare of retired racehorses, we have been working in collaboration with corrections for 4 decades. So the collective experience of our organization is pretty deep in the work of horses and humans working together to make each other better, to healing one another. And it is absolutely a mutually beneficial relationship. And we've celebrated that and we've supported that for 40 years. But we as an organization and we in collaboration with our correctional partners have not done a couple things for 40 years. We have not had a systemic answer to the question that Kim Egan asked me at that graduation on that wonderful day. That was the first graduating class we had at Sykesville since, with Chelsea Truesdale joined us as our farm manager. That was her first crop of graduates since our COVID pause. But Kim's question is a really, really good one. What happens next? And that has not been a part of the TRF's mission for 4 decades, but it's something we care about very deeply. And so let me tell you what we have done much more recently, actually about 4 years of this history now. In 2019, we celebrated the 20th anniversary of our Second Chances program in Lexington, Kentucky. That is at the Blackburn Correctional Complex. Second oldest in our whole stable, if you will, of Second Chances programs. And we went there in 2019 and said, we need to celebrate this event. We need to show people what is happening here. We need to, almost like the graduation event that Kim attended, was we brought people in. We actually brought, not to give Warden Green or facilities manager any kind of heartburn, but we had 140 people come to the Blackburn Correctional Complex on November 6th, 2019. We opened the doors, in that terribly, not bad pun sort of way. We opened the doors for people to come in, and they were able to see the men and the horses of Blackburn demonstrating their skills. And the people that came included employers from farms all around Lexington, much like the farms that I think are very much on this phone call today, much like the members of the Maryland Horse Council. They came and they saw, and on that day, they started interviewing the guys. There was one particular farm owner. Her name will always be celebrated by us. Her name is Lisa Laurie. She is the owner of a farm called Spy Coast Farm that is a very, very top tier breeding, training, showing operation in the sport horse world. It's a warm blood sport horse breeding and training operation in Lexington. She started interviewing our guys. She on the spot on that day with 140 people. And she offered jobs to those that were graduating that wanted horses in their lives when they left. And since that day, every single individual who has graduated from the TRF Second Chances program at Blackburn Correctional Complex and who wanted a job in horses has been hired by Spy Coast without exception. And it's amazing. And the difference here, as I sort of wrap up my little sermon, is that it's because we found a partner who could handle Kim Egan's question. What happens next? What happens next is not in the mission or the mandate of the TRF. Our mission is to save thoroughbred racehorses who are no longer able to compete on the racetrack from possible neglect, abuse, and slaughter. We take care of the horses. Our partners in corrections have a very different mission and a very important mission, which is to take care of and teach and care for and rehabilitate these individuals. Neither of us have the what happens next job. And that's what's so beautiful about what's happened in Lexington, Kentucky, is we found a partner. It's actually the person who brought Spy Coast to my party. Spy Coast plays a very, very important role, like each of you as farm managers can play. But the most important partner for me was Lori Mays and the Kentucky Chamber, because they had a mission of helping employers, of equine employers, and saying, we're going to help you guys find labor. We're going to help you find your future workforce. I want to bring you to this program and see what's happening here. So Lori Mays is the Kim Egan of Kentucky, and the Kentucky Chamber is the Maryland Horse Council of Kentucky. It doesn't matter to us who the partner is. It matters that they care about what's happening at our programs, and it matters that they're trying to not only perhaps it matters above all that they care most importantly about their own members and their own mission, which is to support an equine community of employers. And I'm not putting that as now Maryland Horse Council's mission, but I do recognize as a member that that is a part of the mission, and that's what makes this possible, this collaboration so great. So anyway, I will finish by saying my dear friend and colleague who's at Spy Coast, her name is Nicole McEntee. She and I talked a couple weeks ago in preparation for this webinar, because I said, these folks are going to have a lot of questions for you, Nicole, and I am not the employer and I can't answer them. So what I've done is I've recorded a 15-minute conversation with me and Nicole that is prepared for you guys who are all watching today, and all of you who watch this on record later. Kim will send that out. It's entirely available, and it is also comes with an invitation from Nicole to answer questions about what she and her team and Lisa Laurie have learned over 4 years of hiring our graduates from the Second Chances program. And I will look forward to sharing that as a resource for all of you. But that's my big spiel, because I get to now introduce the most important person of this whole phone call, which is Warden David Green at the Central Maryland Correctional Facility, who is open to a conversation about what happens next. And it's a journey we're just starting together. So I'm going to learn and listen and say thank you, Warden Green, for being with us. And I'm going to hand the baton over to you. Thank you, Ms. Kim, and thank you, David.
Thank you, Ms. Kim.
Thank you, Kim and Kim. I'm not certain that I agree that I'm the most important person on this phone call, but I'll take it. So my name is David Green. I'm the warden for the Maryland Correctional Pre-Release System. And so in Maryland, that is 3 different facilities, all charged with the mission on preparing. We work solely with men at these 3 facilities, but with preparing our guys to be as successful as possible at the time that they're released, so that they don't come back to us. And we do that a number of different ways with, tons of rehabilitative programming, but also the vocational and occupational piece, which is where our partnership with TRF, really comes into play. So I have a couple folks with me today, as was already mentioned, Chelsea Truesdale, who's our farm manager at the Second Chances program, and she's going to spend a few minutes going over what that program looks like and what we're about and that sort of thing. And we also have Miss Marcelle Martin, who is a work release coordinator at one of our other facilities, who can go over our work release program, because our philosophy is that reentry, or successful reentry anyway, starts at the moment of intake. So our goal is to get as many men working for a living wage as far in advance as possible, so that they can save money and have a job lined up. So when they leave, it's a few less things for them to be anxious about. It's a few less stressors on them to aid in their success. So there's that opportunity. And then also to have a conversation about post-release employment, which is something that, like Kim said, is an area that we have not focused on as it relates to this program, but we do with other programs, and we want that to occur with TRF and the Second Chances program as well. And I know I saw a moment ago a name pop up, Tyler Frame. I'm not sure if he rejoined or not, but not to put him out there, but he is one of a former graduate who stayed in the industry and is still currently employed doing that work. And we've had a handful of other successes, but additional growth in that area is certainly what our goal is.
I have to interrupt to say Tyler is an industry professional member of the Maryland Horse Council.
So yeah, and that's kind of what this is all about, is to take this program, which I think my math might fail me, but we're closer to 20 years at Central Maryland than we are 10. So we're getting close to our 20th year anniversary out there. And we want to keep it going, let the good times roll. So I'm available for questions. I'll include my contact information in the chat box, so that if anyone wants to reach out to me directly after the meeting or at any point in the future, I'll be available for those conversations. And at this point, Kim, I'm going to turn it over to Chelsea so that she can get started with what we do.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea Truesdale. I'm the farm manager over at Second Chances in Sykesville. It's good to see everyone. It's good to see everyone's faces. But what I'm going to do is really just go over daily life at the horse farm, what everyone is exposed to while they're there, in terms of curriculum and volunteers and just the horse world that they get to be involved with while they're in the Second Chances program, and then kind of what that means going forward from there. It's just like a very quick presentation, really just a visual while I'm talking. And there are some things in the presentation that are probably hard to see, but I'm going to link the presentation in the chat, as well as a video that I'm not going to play during this just because of time, but you can take a look at that after the meeting. All right, let's see if I can do this. Okay. So I can't see everyone right now, but Kim, would you let me know if you can see the first page?
We could say it in unison that yes, we can see it.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Excellent. So you'll also be seeing some pictures taken at the Second Chances program, which I think I'm 99.9% positive that they were taken by Mr. Charles Toller, who I think is also in this meet today. I saw his name pop up. So thank you for the pictures. So again, I'm the farm manager at the Second Chances Horse Farm in Sykesville for the Central Maryland Correctional Facility. And I'm just going to go over our daily life, curriculum, and then life after the program. So here's just our normal schedule. And as all of you know, barn days can change all the time. Things come up, health issues, things that you have to take care of immediately. But generally, this is what all of our men in the program are doing on a day-to-day basis from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. They put in very hard work every single day, preparing stalls right when they get there, hay, water, feed, bringing in horses, feeding, cleaning pastures, run-ins, water tubs. A big part of the day is partaking in class, grooming, and then practicing those skills and concepts that they learned while in the classroom. And then after that portion of the day, horses are turned out, they prepare the afternoon feed, they clean up stalls, the aisle, water buckets, feed tubs, tidy the barn, and return the tools. And then of course, any other side projects that are happening as well during the day. So it is a day full of a lot of work and a lot of time that they need to put in and responsibility that they need to put in for the horses. It's very horse oriented every single day. And the curriculum, so we just spoke about class time taking up a lot of the day. I would say for each guy, they're spending at least an hour every day learning, whether it's in the classroom or in the stall or outside of the stall, in the round pen, whatever it may be. They're spending a lot of time learning new things, learning from each other, learning from me. Not only the curriculum they're learning from volunteers who have volunteered their time to come in and teach new classes. They're learning from the farrier who's coming in. They're learning from the vet who's coming in. They're learning from the dentist who's coming in. So they're getting a lot of exposure to the horse world. And they're learning from people who are coming from, outside to see graduations or VIP visits, when we have people like Kim and Kim coming in from Maryland Horse Council and TRF to talk to them one-on-one. So it's a really great experience for them, and they learn not just from me. They're getting a lot of exposure to a lot of different people who know a lot of different things in the horse world. So this is the part that when I'm talking about the curriculum, I'm not sure, it's really hard for me to see this, but you can zoom in on it, maybe on your screen, or I'll post the link. But these are just all of the subjects that are really delved deep into during class time. From the previous page, you saw that the guys are in the program for at least 6 months. So we spend a lot of time on each of these topics, from horse behavior, grooming basics, all the way through to health of a horse, taking care of injuries, bone alignment. They learn anatomy of the horse, musculature of the horse, circulatory system, digestive system, and then all the way to the last topic, which is what happens on an actual race day, sample testing, claiming barns, everything, you name it. Especially we dedicate, because these are retired racehorses, we dedicate a lot of time to talking about what happens at the racetrack if they were to be hired in that capacity. So again, I'll post this link so you can see these more clearly. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is just life after second chances. I've been in this position for a year, and I've already met 2 men who have already graduated from the program and left the facility, who are thriving in the horse world right now. The video that I posted on here, and that I'll post the link in the chat as well, is a video of Alex Wooten, who is doing various things in the horse world right now. The video is him at Laurel Racetrack as a groom. The title of it is, if you want to look it up instead of using the link, is "Former Inmate Becomes Horse Groom Thanks to Second Chances Program." And you'll hear from him and his experience with the program and how it kind of gave him a leg up into that world. But really, the program prepares these men to be in the life with horses. They develop a very deep understanding and respect for horses, and not in just the racing discipline, in various disciplines, because they hear from a lot of different perspectives. And just in general, coming from working in a very fast-paced environment, they learn the commitment to extremely hard work, responsibility, and perseverance in that environment. So that is all I have for you. And I'll go ahead and post the links in the chat. And of course, I'll be open to questions as well once everyone's finished.
Thanks, Chelsea. I know that one question everybody has likely is, how do you decide who gets into the Second Chances program? Is it just everybody in the facility who wants to do it can do it, or is there selection? Are there selection criteria?
That's a great question. That's more of a question, I would say, for Warden Green and F.A. Sprecher.
Yeah, thanks, Chelsea. And that was, I was remiss in failing to introduce another member of my team that is on the call today, Jim Sprecher, who is the on-site facility administrator at the Central Maryland Correctional Facility, who handles much of the daily operations there, as kind of my right-hand person out there.
Thank you. My feelings weren't hurt. That's all right.
Sorry, Jim. So yes, we do have some what I'm going to call exclusionary criteria for men who, though they may express interest in the program, would not be a suitable candidate. Primarily, we look at certain types of offenses that we exclude from participation that are largely related to the fact that the men in the program are approved to essentially work in the community, and they're outside of a secure perimeter of a correctional facility. And so individuals with a history of sex offenses are excluded from participation. Individuals with a history of crimes against animals are excluded from the program. And then there are some other internal suitability reviews that we conduct, reviews by, kind of our custody and intelligence folks on who may or may not be the best fit to work in the community, because we are primarily tasked with ensuring public safety. And so not just anyone who wishes to participate in the program is given that opportunity, because there's a balance that we need to strike between that opportunity and the other charges that we have as far as ensuring that everyone is as safe as can be for this type of a program. Jim, does that pretty much cover, our review of the candidates?
No, absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. There's always that when considering a guy for a job assignment, you're always considering eligibility and suitability. And eligibility is going to be more we do have very distinct outside detail criteria. But like I always say, this assignment is sort of unique because it's a little more than like the road crew details, but it's more similar to actually work release. So we kind of look more at the work release criteria because there is so much freedom allotted to the guys that work out there. But no, otherwise, yeah, I'd say those are the things we look at. We look at security factors, but also, is this person suitable to work with animals and in that kind of environment.
And what are, if you could briefly summarize without revealing any confidences, what are the work release criteria?
But work release is generally it's 18 months now, right? It's within 18 months of release, pre-release security. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. If I may, Ms. Martin is going to jump in and talk about the specific work release criteria and that sort of thing once we move to that next step in this presentation.
Okay.
But there's also, and Chelsea can jump in here as well, that there have been times where a person who was perfectly eligible and suitable for the program went out and spent a few days working with the horses, and all parties kind of agreed that it just wasn't a good fit. Some of the guys just didn't kind of gain that confidence that it takes to work around animals like that. And we give them the opportunity. If it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out.
Great. I think we're ready. Well, I think we're ready to move to Marcel. And maybe then after that would be a good time to take a break for some questions, because I suspect that a lot of the questions will be covered by Marcel. So, Marcel? Is she on? Marcel, you're on mute if you're, I do see you on the call, so she is here. Well, I think David is going to find out what her technical problem is. One thing that I know we'll want to ask Marcel, and maybe you can cover this for us, Jim, is will these people who end up working on farms, either during work release or maybe even a post-release situation, would they have transportation, or will people need to come and pick them up and drop them off?
I don't want to steal the work release coordinator stuff. And honestly, I know that can vary by region. I was the work release coordinator in Hagerstown for a while, and we provided transportation. I know once you get into the city, it's much more, they use public transportation. They actually just sort of let out, and they provide an itinerary, and they have to be check in at certain periods of time for accountability. But I think most of the time it is, there's a state van that drives and picks the person up.
Okay, was that background noise Marcel by any chance? Chelsea, while we're waiting, perhaps you could tell people about the exam that the participants have to take. When I was up there for the graduation, I was astonished. They showed their work, and I was astonished at the several of the people, I can't remember who it was in particular, had drawn a picture of the musculoskeletal system of a horse, and it looked like something out of an anatomy textbook. I was blown away. And the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I drew that," like it was no big deal. But I sure couldn't do that, and I don't think anyone I've ever had working in a barn I've been a boarder at could do that either. So why don't you elaborate on that some?
Yeah, that was a really fun day. I was saying before, we have a good amount of time to go into a lot of depth in the program, and those kind of hands-on activities are the things that really stick with the guys, being able to put into practice what they're learning on paper or on a presentation. So I'm really glad that you got to witness that. And I do remember that day, he was like, that wasn't my best drawing either. So he was very disappointed in himself after that. But yeah, so after the 6 months, or, you know, and that's a general time frame, but in about that time, they're ready for the exam. And Dr. Reed McClellan, who was part of creating the Groom Elite curriculum, comes down or up from wherever he is. I think he's in Kentucky, maybe Texas, but he comes up to our farm and we make a big deal out of it. They take a paper test, which is about 100 questions, and it goes into very in-depth detail about everything that's in the curriculum. So they answer those questions on paper, and then he takes each groom into the horse's stall and does a practical exam with them, where he puts into practice, or the grooms have to put into practice, those real-time skills like grooming, tacking, bandaging, TPR, temperature, pulse, respiratory rate. They have to do all of these in front of Dr. McClellan, and that's part of the exam. So they have to pass that to a certain level to get to a specific level of groom.
And then is there a second semester?
So there is, yes, there could be, yes, there's an option of moving into the advanced curriculum. And that's like the curriculum that they're in now is basic and intermediate. And then if they do have the time to stay for the advanced curriculum, and if everyone's on board, me, Dr. Mack, and our warden and FA, then we'll allow that groom to stay in the program and complete another class and get to the next level. And the man that you saw doing the drawing of the systems on the horse, he was actually in that advanced curriculum.
Is he the one who takes care of Niles?
No, he takes care of Lucy, and he took care of Dancer and a few other horses. He was all over the place.
Yeah. Niles is a horse I fell in love with and would steal if Kim Weir would let me. A couple of people have asked how many people. Well, David, is Marcel able to?
Yes. Can you guys hear me? I'm here.
Yes, we can. Okay.
Yeah, I got kicked off of my phone, but I'm here and I'm ready to talk. So thank you all very much for being on the call. Thank you for the opportunity to share information about the program. Both Warden Green and Miss Chelsea have given you a lot of great information. So I'm just going to speak specifically about the criteria for the work release program, what the employer responsibilities are, and also what the benefits are. So just some of the highlights of our program. It really is an opportunity for our guys to use skills that they already come to us with. There are a wide range of professionals right here in the institution, and they also learn a lot of vocational skills while they're incarcerated. So from the warehouse industry, traditional food service industry, automotive, manufacturing, all the way across the board, all of those skills are here. And so when the work release program came into play, we started reaching out to private employers who were really willing to take a chance and give these guys the opportunity to become productive full-time employees. The eligible candidates are placed with private employers throughout the community. The program is extremely structured. There are some supervision requirements, but they help these guys to learn new skills that would enable them to keep their jobs once they return to society. It allows these guys to meet financial obligations like child support or restitution, as well as just be able to secure money for their future. It gives them a really strong sense of responsibility and self-esteem and independence, going home and not having to rely on family for every single thing. So in order to get into the work release program, the first criteria is the basic education of like a high school diploma or a GED. Also, employment readiness, like workshops that teach job training skills and resumes. Those types of programs are kind of standard in correctional institutions, and it's we also do the same thing here. You need to meet that basic eligibility in order to be suitable to at least try to get a job. So we make sure that they first have those skills, and then definitely want everyone to, if they haven't gotten one already, apply for their social security card and their birth certificate. And then, because those things are, called for when you're getting a job, we want to make it as real life as possible. Also, we want guys to have some experience as far as going out to work. So they do learn how to dress appropriately and how to speak appropriately if they haven't before. So we've got guys who've never had a W-2 job before, and then guys who have been professional and working for years. So we go out, we make sure that they get a good, solid interview. We ask the employers to provide a basic on-the-job supervision. The guys can't just be running anywhere. They are outside of the perimeter, and so they are required to stay on the job site where they are working, and with light oversight from the employer. The employer has to have workman's compensation insurance, so we make sure that they have that, and we keep that on file. They have to pay at least minimum wage, and they have to provide paychecks that kind of detail the hours worked and the rate of pay and what the deductions are. And then there are other guidelines that our guys have to go by. They can't have cell phones. They shouldn't be using cell phones. They bring their lunch from here, and they are brought to the work site. So the transportation is reliable. They get scheduled. Our guys work around the clock, depending on what the job is. There are some guys here that go in at 4 a.m. and come out at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So it's one of the perks of having the guys come here. There's always someone to give them a ride. So we ask the employers to give them a schedule just like they would everyone else, and then our staff officers bring them to the job site and pick them up. What else? It's just a great opportunity to give someone a second chance. As we've been talking about this morning, now this industry of horses, I've not heard anybody say, "Hey, I'd love to do that," but sometimes they don't know. So we,
Right.
If the job comes and we say, "Is there anybody here who's interested in that?" Someone always is.
Yeah.
And so it would be very exciting to branch out into this field, because I know that there's somebody here who's either has a background in this or would like to learn. So it's really not just a job for them. It is really where they get back their self-esteem. It's a supportive program. We're giving them a chance to become responsible members of society, and they are very, very committed, very excited to get out there and work full time. And we really want to support them as much as possible. So as Mr. Green said, you can get with him if you have any questions about the program. I can answer any that I can right now. It might be a little loud because I got a hallway full of guys.
That's okay.
But I'm
We've had
happy
one
to.
question come in,
Sure.
Marcel, that
Yes, ma'am.
oh, David's already answered it in the chat. It can be either for part-time or for full-time work.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, and it can be, but as long as it's minimum wage, right?
Yes. And what normally happens is, the guys are really, really, they come from a structured environment. Like, this is a very, very structured environment. So when you're talking about a level of respect, paying attention, following directions, these guys quickly prove themselves to be the best employees on the job in many, many areas. So we have guys that have been working their entire 18 months that they've been eligible. and doing really well and really stacking money for when they go home. And then we have guys that, I don't know, just started last week. So they're coming and they're going home with solid full-time employment, which is our goal, so that we can reduce recidivism.
Yeah. One of the questions was, how long is the arrangement for? And you answered the first half of that, which is it can be for the entire 18 months that they're eligible, but then you can also hire them on after that as just.
Oh, absolutely. That's the goal. The goal is that they stay there. We try to get them as close to their home plan as possible. So if we have a guy who's working, who has a home plan, let's say in Columbia, then we might have them at the Jiffy Lube or at one of the restaurants or one of the Targets or the stores up and down 29, so that they could get to work as soon as they're ready to go. They can get home, get their requirements done if they're out on parole or home detention, and go straight back into their jobs like they don't miss a beat.
So if we set this up right in the horse industry, it's basically a training ground and pipeline for barn managers and grooms with documentable and certifiable training.
Absolutely. In my mind, yeah.
Which is sorely needed. Mm-hmm. Someone in the chat and many others have asked if their farm qualifies, what they do to get certified. And the answer is, now that we have gauged interest and there is a substantial amount of interest, which is wonderful, I have to say, a lot of people anecdotally would rather not have incarcerated person on their property. So I'm really glad that our industry seems to not share that bias. We are going to develop, along with David Green and Marcel, a certification/qualification system. And we need to do that partly because there's only a handful of people coming out of the program every year. We need to do it partly because though transportation is provided, it's not provided literally everywhere, right, Marcel? I mean, you can't.
No, we try to keep things within like a 50-mile radius. That's a long ride to work and back. So most of our guys go about 25 to 30. But if it's an opportunity for them to have full-time employment with something they really want to do, Mr. Green really does individually, make the choice to allow someone to go that far because it's a good setup for them, and that's our goal.
Right. Let's see. Does anybody have any other questions in the chat? Catherine Giordano is wondering, what about other handyman types of jobs around the farm? Is that fair game?
You name it. You name it. These guys know how to do it, enjoy doing it, take pride in doing it. So whether it's mucking stalls or stacking hay or I don't know, I spent a little time on a farm. I know there's tons of jobs. And I know that you can get started early in the morning if you don't want to work with the animals. There's so much more to do. Okay. So I would screen them, and then we bring them out for an interview, a one-on-one interview. So you'd be able to gauge whether or not that's someone that would know what you would want done, or you would be able to easily teach them. Some have, transferable skills. So if you used to clean hotel rooms or clean the Ravens Stadium, you might do really well, cleaning up around the farm, so to speak. That's just an example. I don't really know.
Sure. If you can clean Ravens Stadium, you can clean my little 15-horse stall.
Right. Right.
Right.
I'm jumping in. Kim, go ahead and offer Lori's question, because I think that Warden Green and Marcel will have good answers for her. I'm not going to answer.
Lori has a bunch of questions, which is terrific. But can people from Central Maryland who are not in the TRF program, but are in another sort of work release program there, are they eligible to come work on farms too? In other words, we don't have to, do we not have to have the horse industry pathway just be TRF graduates, or could we also look to other, like we were just talking about, farm handyman type folks, people who are not horses, but are laborers?
Yeah, so our work release program is available to anyone who meets the eligibility criteria. It is not dependent in any way on the TRF program. That was simply just a relationship that we're trying to establish for the guys who do graduate from the program, who want to stay in that field, and
Right.
how to connect them to employers. That, as Ms. Martin said, previously were not relationships that we had established. The department provides a significant amount of job skill training programs through the Department of Labor and other allied agencies, licensed car mechanics, plumbers, electricians, all of those kinds of job skills. And so we place in work release men with all kinds of different skills. And not by any means is it restricted to just those who graduate from the program.
But it would have to be a term of employment, right? Like you couldn't just say, hey, I need someone to come out and fix my plumbing today.
No, we are looking for established gainful employment with a W-2, and they should be treated like any other private citizen who's coming in to look for a job, because that ultimately they are returning citizens, and that's
Right.
what we're trying to set them up for, to ensure that we're as successful as possible, or that they are as successful as possible at their time of release.
Okay.
I would just add right here that we really try to keep as discreet as possible as far as these guys being, currently incarcerated. We drive them there. We might park down the street or bring a car or a van that has no, department insignia on it. We encourage the guys to keep their business to themselves. So if you have other staff or other employees there, you don't have to, announce that, hey, I just hired these inmate guys. That we teach them to keep their business to themselves. And if they feel like they want to share, they can, but they certainly don't have to. And the employer, makes that choice themselves. So we want them to have gainful employment, and we want them to be ready to get back into society. They've done their time, they're doing their time, and they're going to be ready to go soon. So we want them to be set up correctly when they go.
That's terrific. Karen has raised her hand. Karen, you are down in Southern Maryland, are you not? Go ahead, Karen, you have the floor.
Okay, yes, hi. We have a small facility here. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, we have a small facility, 25 horses, 40 acres. What I would be interested in is what we must do to qualify for us to participate in such a program. We have vets, our regular vet comes out every month. We have blacksmith that comes out every 2 weeks. What we're looking for is someone to do basic horse care, feeding, turn in, turn out, cleaning stalls, cleaning buckets and so forth, and using our equipment to move the manure, drag fields. And we are a farm. We plant grass, pasture, and so forth. But what do we have to do to qualify to participate in this program?
You're in La Plata, right, Karen?
Correct.
Yeah.
Are we too far out?
Currently, yes.
Okay.
Tim Weir and I have a master plan to get a facility set up at Jessup in the women's prison. And, if we were queens of the world, we would have this in every facility in Maryland. But yeah, you're probably too far away from there for now. But in that question, there was a question about using farm equipment and vehicles. As I understand it, Marcel and David, there wouldn't be any restriction on whether people who come to work on the property can use the tractors and the front loaders and things of that sort, right?
No,
No.
I mean, I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
No, there is not. As long as there is proper training, certification, safety protocols. And to answer the first part of the question, there is a employer investigation document that we ask prospective employers to complete that
Mhm.
provides some pretty basic information on what's the expected schedule, what's the expected salary, where are you located, who would the person's supervisor be, do you have workman's compensation insurance, those types of questions. And you provide that information, we take a look at it and we make a determination on whether or not the relationship is feasible. And then there'll be some orientation conversations about expectations. We are not asking you to be security personnel keeping an eye on a work release person in the community. That's not what we're asking of you. But more along the lines of see something, say something. And then we will do what's necessary on our end to ensure that the program remains operating in the way that it's supposed to operate.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Now, one last question. Obviously, we have a lot of things like syringes, horse drugs. Now, we lock these in a file cabinet, but most of our students here are children, so it has not been a major concern. Is that a problem, do you think, in this program? Would we have to provide some other security for those meds and syringes and that sort of thing?
That is a good question. The reality of the situation is that a work release program is not without some risk, because we are placing folks who, in a significant position of trust to work in our communities. No, you would not be asked to or required to implement any additional security or anything like that. We have men and women working all over the state in a large variety of jobs. Men who are servers at restaurants that serve alcohol, and we're not concerned about them having access to the alcohol.
Okay.
We have processes in place on our end to ensure the integrity of the program.
Okay, great.
Because, again, we want to see this program continue to thrive, work release in general. And so there are certain steps that we take to ensure that we keep the fidelity of the program very healthy.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
great.
Thank you.
Charles Toller has his hand raised, and I have to introduce him because he's a Howard County cop and one of our favorite people. He volunteers at TRF. He works with retired thoroughbreds at Burning Benjamins, and he took the beautiful pictures in Chelsea's slide deck, and he is a past winner of the Equiaries cover contest. So whatever you have to say, Charles, we're all ears.
I was just thinking about Karen's situation. She wouldn't qualify for the work release program, but I guess a goal of a longer term solution is maybe either second chances or the horse council can maintain a list of people that are looking for help later on. So let's say that Jimmy finishes the program as a work release and he gets released. I remember there was one guy that lived on the Eastern Shore, I think the first time we went. So they were from all over the state. And then while they won't qualify for this work release program because it's just a little too far, the long-term solution to be able to say, okay, Johnny worked on the farm, he did this, now he's released. Is there a way that either the Horse Council, TRF, or Second Chances can maintain a list of people like Karen that are interested, that want to have access to somebody to interview or do something?
Yeah, this is actually something that Kim Weir and I have discussed. Because the Horse Council is going to be the official partner with TRF and the liaison with David Green and Marcel, we do anticipate having sort of a matchmaking service for graduates of the program. And we're not going to become an employment agency for everybody, for everyone who wants a job. That's well beyond our means. But because these folks are so well trained in the horse industry already and are so knowledgeable and could really be, in my opinion, the missing link we've all had in our operations, finding good, reliable, qualified, and highly knowledgeable people. So we are committed to matchmaking work release participants and graduates long term. there aren't that many of them because there's a limited size for the program, because there's just one barn and there's just a few limited number of horses that qualify for the program as well. So it's something that we can manage, and we would love to do that. So yes, Karen, we would have a list. I know a few other people have asked the same question who are a little bit too far away. And just to reiterate, there's been a question again about what if I only need help on the weekends? Part-time work is okay, but does it have to be a minimum number of days a week?
No.
No, it does not. No. But you know, the job market is getting more competitive, and you know, we have men who are getting, you know, union warehouse jobs with Giant and Target where they're making over $20 an hour with guaranteed employment post-release, including benefits. And so there is that possibility that fewer hours.
You might not get your candidate.
Right.
Yeah.
There is some competition there.
Yeah. Okay. Michael Singletary, you've been patient. And you are the Maryland Jockey Club Security Fellow at Laurel Park. So you have the floor.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Let me introduce myself. So I'm a retired lieutenant from DPSCS. I was a part of the reentry program and the second chance program when I was in the in DPSCS. I was at the MHC JCI institution for 18 years. In my last 5 years with that MCIW, I was actually involved with the MCE, Maryland Correctional Enterprise Program, which trained inmates through different industry prospects. So now that I'm VP of Security, especially for Warden Green, I've been a big the Maryland Jockey Club, the Racing Commission, our track investigators, stewards here, in partnership with the MTHA, Maryland Thoroughbred Horseman Association, through Bobby Lillis and Jillian.
Bobby's on the call. Yeah.
Bobby's on the call. And Jessica Hammond. We were very involved with the Second Chance program and the tours that was provided here at the facility prior to the pandemic starting. So we are still excited about being a part of this program again. For most of you on the call that don't know, we also have living arrangements on the backstretch. We have over 400 residents that live on our backstretch in apartments that take care of the horses 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So training is 7 days a week. So Warden Green, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk after this. I believe I met with Ms. Martin prior to pandemic to start setting up a partnership with the Sykesville branch to start helping and supporting the inmates for work release. And also, even after training is over, we were also interested in letting them work at the facility, helping out our electricians, maybe helping out our field teams with the track crew, things like that, so they can also get incorporated in that part of the business side of the racetrack too, and not just the backstretch. And lastly, Alex Wooten, when he originally took the tour, is when I first met him. Once he was released, we met, we had an interview, and he was provided backstretch housing. He became a hot walker, a groom, and he's an exercise rider, and now he owns his own horse. So he has come a long way, and with all the support from the Second Chance program. So hopefully we can look to do business with the Sykesville branch, and of course with Ms. Weir up at the Sykesville farm, because I did come up and I did speak at the graduation. I think Sir Stein was up there. So we are very supportive of the program.
And would Laurel be close enough to Sykesville?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, we have two more. We have another facility in Baltimore City, which is Pimlico Racetrack. But Laurel would be the facility that, which is our main facility that we run at 11 months a year.
Yeah. Thank you. So Kim Weir has her hand raised, and so does Tyler Frame. And I'm going to ask him to go first because Tyler, you are loquacious. And I know you have a lot of excellent things to say, but I mean, Kim's not loquacious, but I'll let Kim get hers out of the way first, and then we'll go to
I
Tyler.
love Tyler and I will both enjoy that you're having to pick between which of us talks more. And
I know,
I
right?
don't know who's going to win that one or lose that one. But anyway, I just wanted to, I have really little to chime in. This is fabulous. I just want to cheer for this. But just to say, I will speak on behalf of Kentucky, and Lori Mays is very active on the chat and is our spokesperson. What's interesting about Kentucky, just as a point of reference, if nothing else, is that we have not yet even started a pre-release conversation in Kentucky. We literally went to what Kim, you were describing a minute ago. We only have the partnership with Kentucky Chamber at the moment of release. It's not pre-release, it's not work release, it's release. It's that moment. So just as a point of conference, I love this idea of work release. This is very new ground, like really groundbreaking ground. You should all be proud of being a part of this conversation, because this is moving our 40-year-old program forward in a way that has yet to have happened anywhere. So go for it. It's a horse race. You guys can lead, you can win, you can come from behind. It's all great. But I will just say that for Kentucky, just know that we've only worked in that model that Kim described, which is that one of our guys, which is going to be our guy we're going to talk next, Tyler, gets out. Then we need someone to say, send out the call. We have a qualified, extraordinary, passionate, dedicated person who has a job for him. That's what I'm envisioning will happen. And meanwhile, parallel track, we can get this work release, which is super exciting because it's there. It just hasn't been connected to this program. That's all I wanted to say. And I will cede the floor to Tyler.
So Tyler's going to talk. Tyler, I hope you're not in a windy place.
No.
Tyler went through the program. He came out of the program. He has continued to work in horses. He's continued to get certified in various things and maintain his education and learn more. He recently got whatever it is you get to become a professional bull rider, and promptly broke his wrist. So Tyler, your success story. So you have the floor, but keep it short. Ish.
So one of the things about when it came to work release is, and David Green kind of touched up on a little bit of it, is we are in desperate need in Washington County of individuals to work on farms. However, in Washington County and most of the places that I've done work at, and most of the people are only 1099. So if you have guys coming out to our farms, do they have to have a W-2 is one of my first questions. The other thing,
I think the answer is yes. David?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to table that, and I can get some additional information. I'm not aware of any precedent where we have employed guys as 1099s. But let me research that a little bit more, and I can get back with you and give you that information.
It doesn't really jive with the point, Tyler, of like stable work. And as the lawyer in me is compelled to say that if I were advocating for you guys, you don't want to be 1099s, you want to be W-2s. But yeah, that's something, David, I mean, there are some standard operating procedures in the horse industry that are due to be upgraded, in my opinion, but we might need to prepare a fact sheet or something for people on that, and also cash under the table and a variety of other things that people typically do. Is that it, Tyler? You only had one thing to say?
No, the other question I had is, so when I was in the TRF program, I had actually did some outside programs to get my equine first aid certification and stable management certifications. So if we have these guys hypothetically coming to our farm, are we allowed to pay for them to get those through the mail certifications? Because at the end of the day, if they see what I had seen when I was in this program, the light at the end of the tunnel, they would be more inclined to go through us to do that. And if they choose to leave when they get out and they don't want to stay with us, that's fine. Because, at the end of the day, in, the equine industry, we need to start worrying about working with each other versus against each other. But that's one of the things that my boss had a question about, is if you opened it up to where we could get guys to come out to the Hagerstown region, could we provide them for secondary education
Yeah, that's a good question. Who wants to take it?
Yeah, so there is a mechanism through the department, an established opportunity for additional types of licensing and certification examinations and that sort of thing while still incarcerated with us. Doing it through correspondence, like you mentioned, with folks sending stuff in and getting certified that way, there's really no prohibition to that. And that sort of thing happens often. I think my only caution would be a company paying for it and then the person just opts to go elsewhere with skills or certifications paid for by someone else. That the department in that case, and again, this is not from our Office of the Attorney General. This is simply Warden David Green providing information that he is currently aware of. The department, the department would not, I don't believe, really have any involvement in any arrangement made between a prospective employer and a graduate of the program to pay for certifications.
Even while the person is still in work release and not out?
So, I'm trying to draw a parallel with some of our automotive program participants who are hired through Jiffy Lube or Vehicles for Change, and who get additional types of ASE certifications while employed with them. So that is true, that occurs, and there is kind of a precedent there for that.
That's great.
Yeah. So not to say it's a deal breaker, but certainly something that would need a little bit more research before I could really give you a definitive answer, or something that we could include as part of this conversation.
I would argue that it's a good way to, that's real life in the workforce. The more qualified you are, the more options you have.
Certainly.
Tyler, you done? Because we got someone else with their hand raised.
One more thing. So Above and Beyond Farms, I had touched with TRF today, and I've also touched with the Maryland Horse Council about coming out. One of the things, we're getting ready to apply for our Maryland Horse Industry Board Horse Discovery Center. So that's the one reason I just wanted you to know. I might give you a call, Mr. Green, later about it. Is one of the things, a requirement is to be more involved in the community, because of me speaking out in the articles that TRF has, generously done for me. A lot of people in my area, and especially my bosses, are pro you guys having like a road crew come out and work at our property, or if you guys wanted to use us as a Maryland Discovery Center to be the transition in the Western Maryland region to provide these guys with jobs at different places. We will be the main Maryland Horse Discovery Center in Western Maryland based off of what we have to offer. So I just like to keep, that door open for you. And I just wanted to make sure that would be an okay thing. Or if we could work with some.
Yeah, well, why don't I think I gave you my card the last time we ran into each other out at the open barn. So yeah, give me a call offline and we can certainly talk about that.
All right.
Yeah, and also Tyler has invited the Maryland Horse Council on February 19th. We're going to come out. They have a heated indoor. We're going to do a dog and pony show. So everybody in Western Maryland, please join us there. And David or Marcel or anybody from corrections who wants to come attend and be available after for chit chat, that would be great. We'll talk about that offline. Amy, you've had your hand raised and have been patient.
No worries. I enjoyed going after Tyler. Sorry, and I apologize. I'm actually out at the barn working today. Whoops, and now it's there we go. Sorry, my battery's low. So I have a boarding operation in Anne Arundel County. And I have all my stalls covered and everything like that. I heard that you guys, is there a need for placement for this program, or, because you guys were talking about the fact that, Target's offering and all this other, and all these other places are offering. I kind of came into this call today with a background. I have a family member that I lived with for a long time who was a parole officer. She was a probation officer. She did electronic monitoring and all that. And my hope was to find is to fill a niche where I help fund someone that's currently incarcerated. So when they get out, they have money so that they can, I may not be their end hire, but is that something you guys would be interested in? I mean, I do everything above the board. I have workman's comp. I do W-2s. I do everything that you guys are asking for. Am I a candidate?
Do you mean for the work release program, or are you
Well, no,
suggesting?
not a candidate to be on the work release program.
No,
but
no,
to,
I
like,
know.
help out
But
because
it almost sounded like you were suggesting an enhanced role.
no.
Which would be great.
Can you be an employer?
Okay.
Yes, I would be an employer,
So-
and but it would be under the understanding that I'm just, helping, when, what I'm looking for is, I have plenty of stall coverage, but I'm the only person who does the maintenance on my farm. And so I always do my maintenance on the weekends. I only have 2 days a week that I can offer because I can't offer any weekdays. But for someone who would want to come out and, I need to build fences, I need to clear brush, I need to do stuff like that.
So that's when the investigation that Warden Green talked about would take place. You and I would just have a conversation. I will complete the documentation and I'll submit it to him for his review and for his approval. And then, there's so many guys who are coming down the pike all the time. Someone's getting approved, and not everyone is, built to turn wrenches at, vehicles for change. There will be someone who has a love of horses, and for everyone though, it's not all about money. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, they have family support, and they want to get a job, and they want to get out of the institution for as many hours as they are permitted to be. So if there's a weekend opportunity and they can make a little bit of change on the side, then I know that there would be somebody who says, I've always loved horses. My grandmother had horses, and I want to go to the horse farm. And then, well, what gets funny, as soon as I hire out one, everybody's going to want the job. So it works that way. I don't care what job it is. So we're open to filling out the documentation for Mr. Green's review. Anytime you could call me. I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
I would like, Amy, though, to have, well, actually, this is probably a question more for you, David and Marcel. For the graduates coming out of the TRF program who are highly trained in horse first aid and things of that sort, I suspect we'll want to give those graduates priority for in-stable barn management type work. And then perhaps the more general work release program that doesn't come through the Horse Council necessarily would be the right place for general farm labor. But that'll certainly be something we'll discuss, because we do need to come up with a little bit of a plan. That's my thought at the moment. And I am happy to be told I'm wrong. Elizabeth Tate wants to know if everybody will be given everyone's contact information. The wonderful thing about Google Meets is it produces a attendance chart with the push of a button. So yes, I'm happy to circulate that. If you don't want your stuff circulated, please send me an email. I'll put my address in the chat, and I won't include you on the list. Any more questions? We're a little over time, but I'm gratified that we've had such a good conversation. Oh, Elizabeth Tate says, I don't care about you. I want to know about the DPSC folks. Yes, we can circulate that list. We'll put together the names and also some, Kim and Chelsea's contact information and some other names, and we can circulate that to this group, who I know who they will be because of the attendance sheet that Google Meet spits out. Anything else? Anyone else want to, David or Marcel or Kim or Chelsea or Tyler, anybody want to give us any parting thoughts?
No, I just think this is really great. Thank you, Kim, Egan, and the Horse Council for putting this together. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Mr. Singletary, I please do give me a call. We wanted to talk about some of the tours too. Laurel, that used to be done some years ago. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this and establishing these relationships. And, the work release is only one piece. The post-release employment is also something that, even if it's just us on our end, giving a list of prospective employers to guys when they graduate and say, give these folks a call. They're interested in hiring, So yeah, we're really excited about this. I know I shared my phone number and email in the chat, and Kim, feel free to circulate my contact information. But yeah, thank you everyone for participating today.
And Tyler must have the last word, apparently.
Absolutely. I learned the best from Kim.
Which
I
one?
wanted to mention to DPSCS and a lot of other people. I know me and Kim Egan had talked about this, and so when I went through the program, I'll keep this short, I learned about racehorses. However, I also learned from Sarah Stein about other areas when we went to Days and Horse Farm Rescue. And that's what really clicked about, sorry, I'm making farm runs. That's what really clicked for me. So one of the things I actually wanted to ask is, one, if you guys ever want to bring people up to my facility, I can bring out, and we can get them cleared, some of the borders, and we can show the different disciplines, because there are different disciplines, different ways to make money in this industry, and everybody is very accepting of everybody else in the industry. We can also drop off supplies, and we have farriers who are willing to come down. I've talked to a lot of people who are very interested in the program, are willing to come down to Sykesville to talk to these guys about different disciplines, because that's sometimes the race industry is nice. Yeah. However, it is very high paced. You know what I mean? You have to, be able to put up with the stress. And some people like me, I could not do that. But however, I can manage a facility that is multiple disciplines. So that is one of the things that I want to just, throw out there, and we could talk about.
Right. Yeah, I think it's worth having a discussion. From horse council members, there was just a bill introduced in the legislature this week to create an apprentice commission. The administration is dedicated to improving vocational opportunities and vocational education. And I've been thinking, and I've spoken to Tyler about this, that it would be great if we could get a farrier apprentice program worked out somehow through work release, because there's a huge shortage of farriers. So yeah, there's a lot of ways we can go with this. And based on the interest today, I think we've got the public mandate, so to speak, to go ahead and do it. So I want to thank everybody for joining, everybody from Corrections, Kim Weir, Chelsea, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch.
All right. See y'all.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. What a great morning this has been. Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.